Welcome to Older and Bolder, where we showcase individuals who are fearless, fabulous, and 50 plus. Here's your host, Debbie McCulloch.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 37 of Older and Bolder. I'm your host, Debbie McCulloch. Today, I welcome the popular Canadian radio and television host, Lizy Triffo. Lizy now lives in Toronto, but the road she took to arrive there was full of twists, turns, adversity, resilience, and inspiration. Lizy was born in Chile and later, at the age of 11, moved with her parents and family to Brazil. Despite becoming a successful businessman, Lizy's father felt life was becoming unsafe for his family. So they moved again, this time to Canada, living in Regina, Saskatchewan, in the heart of the prairies. Lizy went through many challenging times as she adapted to this new culture, a very different climate with extremely cold winters, and learning a new language. Lizy also found herself in a relationship with a possessive, controlling, and abusive man. Despite making it clear that she wanted nothing more to do with him, he remained a dark cloud in her life that would show up at unexpected times. Lizy has recounted her story of following her dreams and never giving up in her book titled Greener Pastures, My Life Lessons and Journey to Forging Happiness. I am thrilled to introduce the fearless, fabulous follower of her dreams and the personality behind the Lizy T show, Lizy Triffo. Welcome, Lizy. Bienvenidos.
Love it. Debbie, I have to say, we talked about this behind the scene. By the way, you definitely have a radio voice. Love it. And this is an honor, a pleasure to be a guest on your incredible show. I know you haven't been doing this for long, but my goodness, you are doing a fabulous, an amazing, incredible job. Like I said to you earlier, I have lots to learn, and I think we all do learn from each other. I think you're doing amazing, and yeah, I'm listening, and I'm like, who is that girl that she's talking about? I really want to meet her because it cannot be me. So thank you.
It definitely is you, and thank you for the compliments that you sent my way there. I really, really appreciate that. You are a very seasoned and skilled podcaster and have an incredible radio show. And you also have led such a colorful and interesting life. And now, as you live your life in your 50s, if you don't mind me saying that, you are living your dream as a radio and podcast host. And you write in your book that when you were a young child in Chile, and you would pretend to interview your brother, and you really had that in the back of your mind that would be such a fun thing to be as on the radio. Could you share some of those childhood memories that you have from living in Chile, Lizy?
Absolutely. Being a child in South America, definitely very different than a child in North America. And my family, we went back and forth being well off, not well off, well off. And the times that we were, I would say, struggling, my pastime, my playtime wasn't watch TV or play dolls. It was actually hanging in or picking up a stick or whatever, or a back of the broomstick, whatever I can find to make it look like it was a microphone, and either sing in the bathroom or even interview, like you said, it like it is in my book, interview my brother. I would actually have for my parents, every child will make usually a card. Mom, I love you, happy birthday. Me, I would actually play or rehearse a theater, and I have to I had to beg my brother and my sister, she was very little at the time, to be part of the theater acting, so we could give my parents a anniversary gift or even a birthday gift. That was my gift to them. Forget about the card with hearts or flowers. It was actually making an art, and they loved it. I never even thought there was something different. Now looking back, I could see I had that TV or that radio personality in me right from the beginning, and it felt amazing to be able to learn from others or to interview, find out. I used to ask people, what is the weather like today? What do you think? And, with the back of the broom or even a comb, a brush, whatever I had in my face, and they would look at me like, this girl is weird. But you could tell, the initiation was right there at those times.
Yeah, and so it was something that obviously brought joy to you. And what special gifts for your parents, and even if your siblings sometimes weren't as cooperative as you'd like, they went along and put on those productions with you.
Well, they had to, because I would bribe them with, I'll give you my dessert. And then my mom kind of, by the third time when I first had the idea, I would ask, Mom, can I use the sheets from the bed, or can I use the curtains? And she kind of, what do you need it for? And thank goodness my mom was very cooperative as well and very supportive. She didn't question, you're going to make a mess. She was like, okay, fine, have your fun. And so I really appreciate, looking back, my mom kind of knew that I was going to be doing something different, and the proof was in there. Now we can see the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, you obviously were honing your creative side way back then. And all of that was in Spanish. So your first language was Spanish in Chile. And then you talk a lot about your dad and his entrepreneurial spirit, and he always wanted to try new things. And so he actually started from scratch again and moved the entire family to Brazil, still in South America, but a different language again that you had to learn. So what was that like? And he built an amazing business in there, but it must have been a little bit of a difficult transition for you as well, learning a new culture and a new language, Portuguese, when you moved there. What was that like, Lizy?
It is funny. My dad was always, and hence of the name of the book, Greener Pasture. He always had that gypsy blood within him. It didn't matter if we were living in Chile, but we went through almost all of the provinces, minus where it was really cold. So I kind of gotten used to it. The idea of, okay, we've been here a couple of years. Okay, what is new now? Things are happening on the north of Chile. Let's move there. My father is there. There's something going on with potatoes. Let's open up a business. Or he was always on the run. I never was able to keep friends for a long time, because in the back of my mind, I knew we're going to move again. And so when we moved to Brazil, it wasn't a big surprise. I figured, I didn't have the concept of Brazil being a completely different culture and a completely different language. I thought to myself, well, we moved within Chile so many cities. I mean, it's probably the same in Brazil. Well, my little that I know, Portuguese there is part of the Latin languages, like French and Italian, but there are some things that are very, very different. The culture, the food, the heat. But at the beginning, it was challenging. I was only 11, so kids adapt very, very quickly. And so, but I love to be able to, at the time when we first moved there, we lived close to the beach, and that, for me, that wasn't too familiar with that in Chile. It was the excitement of the day to be able to go to the beach every weekend. It was very close to where we used to live. The water is nice and warm, and the sunrise and sunsets were just breathtaking. I did make some friends, but again, the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to get too attached to this place, because I know my dad is going to find a reason of moving again, and it did happen.
your dad had built quite a wonderful business with several stores, and your family was fairly well to do. So much so that that's what caused him to be fearful of your safety. And then you share the fact that you even had a bodyguard that you didn't really know was your bodyguard to accompany you as you walked to school. But do you want to tell us or share with our listeners a little bit about what that was, what prompted him to eventually move to
Absolutely.
Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that not only in Brazil, but any South American country or any country from a third world, as soon as the person, as soon as the business, as soon as the family starts to do well enough for others to notice, in a neighborhood that is not the highest of the highest, meaning rich people live there, so people are starting to get to know that you succeeding, and well, the house that they live now, they used to live here, now they live over there, is better, is nicer, there's a nicer car, there is construction going on, so you're susceptible to getting kidnapped, and you've heard of that in Mexico and many other places in the world. You're susceptible of being assaulted, taking your car. So when I used to go to school, I had this very young, maybe a couple of years older, maybe 3 years older. I'm honestly, I can't remember, but a very handsome boy. And I remember having a crush on him, and I'm thinking, that is such a nice thing that this boy would do for me, accompany me to school every day and wait for me until I come home. I felt flattered, and it was so exciting. And little that I know that after a long time, even I think it was when we were living in Brazil, to be honest, I can't remember, I meant to remember such and such, how he was so nice and he used to take me to the school, Dad. And my dad was, well, he was your friend, but I was actually paying him to make sure that you were okay and safe. And I'm like, oh no, that broke my heart. But yeah, I remember on an occasion that my brother, my father had given him a brand new bike to go to school in the with the bike, and a brand new Rolex. And he's started going into the gate, because all the house, most of the nice houses are gated community. And as soon as he started entering, then somebody pointed a gun, and it wasn't a gun, rather it was a knife. Give me your bike, give me your Rolex. So that's when Dad started, the better I do in this country, the more my kids are being targeted, my wife. And so that was a challenge, moving from Chile with nothing and making it so big in Brazil. But then you have the worry that I'm going to have money and more things, but what about my kids' safety? So that was a big controversial situation for my family and for my dad.
No doubt. And probably your mom and your dad, I'm sure too, were very fearful for themselves and for their children, as they could see that they were targeted by others as being people that um, should be victims of crime, or would be victims of crime in that country. So then you talk about too how your father decided to move to Canada, and he did have a relative there, a brother, I believe, but
Correct.
that because of changes in the government, he really couldn't take any money with him. He literally landed in Saskatchewan with $200. So he really
Something
had
like
to
that.
start from scratch again and move to Regina, Saskatchewan. And and tell us how difficult that was, because you do talk about how it was actually harder than anyone thought possible. What was the most surprising for you and your family when you did move to Regina, Lizy?
One of the things that I've always, even though my dad is no longer with us, is his determination. He's persistent. He's goal oriented. Nothing is too small for him. Nothing was too small for him. Nothing was a challenge. And he picked up, and I will love to pass on this life of my dad to my kids, because he wasn't a perfect person, but he's definitely a go-getter. He was definitely a go-getter, and that I think I took upon myself to be just like him. And I remember being, you know, angry at times because we run the business together after I finished, while I was finishing high school in Brazil. And for him to build, to basically the whole strip mall, it was almost all of the half of it was already owned by him. And because he was working so hard and making such a good money for the last 5 years of his life since we moved from Chile, he said, "You know what? I deserve a vacation." And not a lot of people can take a month and a half off of work. And he said, "I'm going to go to Canada. It's a place that I've always wanted to be. I'm going to reunite with my brother that lives in Canada." He had probably had no idea where Regina, Saskatchewan was, but that's what my uncle used to be at the time. And he took a month off vacation, and he obviously came in the summer, fell in love with the place. And he came back after a month and a half. He put people to work on his behalf to manage the business while he was away. And when he came back, he said, "You know what? This is peaceful." He used to tell you can leave the bikes in the street and nobody will take them. Little things that for a South American person, where you live in a gated community, those are things that you've never even heard of. Like you could leave your bike in the grass and nobody will take it. Wow. You can leave your car, and back then, especially we're talking about
Yeah.
30 years ago, things may have changed now.
I think
And
they have quite a bit, but
ye-
it was a huge change from what you saw in Brazil.
yes, yes, yes. So he fell in love, and we started applying, and took us about 3 years for the government of Canada to approve our application. And we were in Canada, and oh my goodness, it he thought, "I'm going to sell all my businesses and I'll have enough funds to start a brand new business in Canada." Little did he know that's when the government of Brazil decided to change from uh, Cruzeiro, which was the money there, to reals, which is the money currently at this point. And everything that you had in the bank, it went to zero. And it was devastated for my father to learn that, and to be able to just graph enough, which you were right, it's roughly around $200, 170 or 80, it doesn't matter. It was just a ridiculous amount. And I remember my uncle saying, "I cannot believe that you just brought this to Cat. How are you going to do this? How?" And I remember my dad saying, "It doesn't matter. I've studied many times over again. This is not going to be the exception." And yeah, he was determined to fight for his family and fight for us and fight for himself and prove everybody wrong. And in my books, he did succeeded.
For people that aren't familiar with Saskatchewan, the people that speak Spanish or Portuguese are very few and far between, and everything is English. And we have extremely cold winters. And as you said, the culture was very different. So, what were some of the most challenging areas for your parents and for yourself, Lizy?
Absolutely, the language was number one. The language was number one. The cold weather was number two. The food, number three. And yeah, language is it's not like learning French or learning Portuguese or learning Italian. Is English is not part of the Latin circle, so it's backwards. I don't know if that's the only way I can describe. A lot of people think about what is English like. It's backwards. We speak backwards. Spanish is one, we go one way. In English, you turn it upside down. That's the only thing I can come up with for people to understand. So we, for the first year, basically, which it was very frustrating. I can hear my father all Canadian. Um, we what do you think? And I was like, I love it, I love it, this is incredible. She was, I can tell right now you love it now because it's not the real winter, but it was incredible. Now my real winter, it came about a couple of years later when I was working for doing translations from Spanish to rather from English to Spanish for the University of Regina. And I had to deliver, back then we didn't email, we actually had to print a document and take it in person or mail it. So I remember taking that paper to the University of Regina. I wasn't driving, obviously. So I took the bus and I missed the bus and I wasn't dressed properly. And I actually had boils in my ears because I didn't have a hat. It was minus 20 with, I don't remember if it was windshield, but I had boils on my ear and it hurt so bad. And I didn't have proper gloves, and my finger, the tip of my fingers were so sore. I thought it was going to be, they were on fire. So yeah, I thought, okay, I do not like this. I do not like, I want to go back to Brazil right now, please. But
Frostbite is very difficult, and until you're really used to and know to check how to dress before you go out and waiting at bus stops.
for anybody that is thinking of coming to Canada there, make sure that when you do arrive in the summer, it's definitely not the portrayal of what winter is like. So make sure that you have your gears and you have your gloves and you have your hats and cover your ears, because some people like myself, which I didn't know, boils could actually grow in your ear
Oh,
because
yeah.
I mean, I hear that for summer, but never even
Yeah.
thought that could happen in the
Yeah,
winter.
no, it can be very dangerous. And when we drive the long distances, we keep extra things in our vehicles. And
That's
warm boots are a must. So
that's one of the things that I couldn't enough understand. Why would the cars being plugged? And later on I learned because of the radiators. That doesn't, we don't have that in Ontario. That's moving to another province which is a bit warmer than Saskatchewan. People said it's so cold out there. I always say, no, this is not cold. Wait until you go to the Western province and then you can talk to me about it.
you did experience a lot of adversity when at first you thought it was something good, a man that was taking great interest in you and was flattering you, and then you ended up in a relationship that really wasn't good. And this man ended up being very possessive, controlling, and abusive. Um, do you want to just share with us just a little bit of that story? Because I think it really is valuable for people to hear your story, because there's many women that do find themselves in these predicaments.
Yes, one of the reasons, Debbie, that I didn't publish my book, I had it in my computer for at least 5 years, maybe even longer, because of this part of abusive relationship. And then I thought, you know what? Somebody out there could benefit, could call me, could email, and I've been invited to speak in regards to this in a broader detail. One of the things that people, if whoever is listening right now, can even imagine what it's like to be taken advantage physically, sexually, and mentally, is not a good thing. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But you have to see the signs. If somebody is that interested in you to the point that is calling you a possession, you cannot break up with me because you're mine. If somebody is forcing themselves to have to be sexual when you don't want to, that's rape. So all of those signs, unfortunately, I didn't see it, and I it got to the way it got. But I was blessed enough to be able to recognize after a while and said, this is not healthy. This is not right. My parents don't have that kind of relationship. What am I doing? So recognize those, and recognize that you can leave, and recognize that there's a lot of help out there. I remember going to an organization in Regina that gave me tons of support, and there is help. So don't fight this alone. There is support. You can nowadays, with the internet, with the computer, with a cell phone, you can reach out to me. I am here to connect with anyone who is listening, to guide you, to give you any type of advice, because if you don't leave soon enough, this can turn into a long relationship that you can't get out. And there's kids that come into that relationship, and it gets worse and worse, because most of those guys out there, they have a disease, they have a mental condition, and most of them don't change. They promise that they'll be better, they will treat you better, they will buy you flowers, but is within them to not it's bigger than it's like an alcohol, only Alcoholic Anonymous or going through treatment they can change, and some of them they don't. So it's it's a part of my life that it's definitely hard for me to talk to, but I think it was a must for me to share in my book, even that little bit, because if I was able to leave, then you that are going through, I'm sure that you can too. And the fact that you're listening to us right now is probably a sign that you know someone. You're seeing some signs, or you're seeing a bruise on the face, or you see a bruise on the arm. You could tell them, look, you don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay with this man. You don't have to stay with this person.
Yeah, and you've been very courageous and brave to share the story in your book. Like you said, it took a long time for you to be ready to have others read it. And you do share how it took you a long time, even when you realized that you didn't want to be with this man anymore, and he kept pursuing you and he was quite relentless. But you felt almost that you didn't want to tell others or reach out for help right away, and that seems to be a common theme with so many women. And you're so right when you say that, with these men, it can just get worse and worse and worse, and usually the abuse does escalate. So good for you for getting out when you did and really moving on with your life, reaching out for help, and now sharing your story with others so that you can help others and many women that you will never meet, likely, those that read your book or listen to your podcast or listen to this podcast today too, that there is, light at the end of the tunnel. But it is important that when you do feel those warning signs and realize that this isn't a good relationship at all, that it's very toxic and abusive, that you need to get out sooner rather than later, correct, Lizy?
And a lot of people, absolutely, you're absolutely right, Debbie, and correct of saying that a lot of people think that abuse or rape is, somebody comes out of the bushes, takes you, uh, forces themselves into you, and then just leave. Not necessarily. Let's get that paradigm, let's get that concept out of the window. This is somebody that you live with, that in my case pursued me. You feel flattered. My goodness, who am I? This guy will not leave me alone. I must be something else. And then all those feelings of empowerment, which is great to have those feelings of empowerment, they wither off as soon as you say, you know what, I don't feel like being with you today. What do you mean you don't? Then there is a slap comes, an aggression, a word of belittling you, and so all those they escalate. And I think no, the person tests you how much you can take, and the more you can take, the more they escalate. So those are the signs that you have to say, if the person is giving you the respect, is giving you the acknowledgement that you are separate, that you're not their possession, that's a good guy. The other guy is doing everything they can to own you and to have power over you. So try to look at those two differences and make the right decision, because if everything adds up, all the dots add up to, um, he hit me this morning, next day he's telling you that you're not good for nobody, the other day he's forcing you to have sex, and the other day he is not letting you to work because you have dressed up provocably, which you probably didn't, but in his eyes you did. All those things you have to add up and say, this is not good, this is not a good relationship, I shouldn't feel this way and I shouldn't go through that. So yeah.
And even though it did affect how you felt you could relate to men, for a time being, I just need to share with our listeners too that you have found the man of your dreams and are very happily married with 2 daughters. But it took you a little while to get there, and you do illustrate that really well in your book, that you were quite hesitant to trust another man for a little while.
Well, anybody who was in a relationship that I was, and I wouldn't even call it a relationship, in the situation that I was in, you probably will not trust anyone, not men, no women. And then, like you said earlier, I forgot to mention, I wasn't even comfortable of telling my own mother, which right now she's my best friend. After my dad's passing, I was, as you could hear by my voice, and you can hear by my excited every time I talk to about my dad. So like I'm talking about the king, because he was my best friend. My mom, an amazing lady, love her. But she was just a mom. Now she took the place of my dad. So I should have been able to pop up, people, but listeners are thinking, why didn't you tell your mom? See, I didn't even feel comfortable of doing that. So I couldn't trust anyone, because the whole world came down when I went through that, um, to that relationship, or that situation. Then there was this really nice man, respectful, not trying to do anything, just wanted to be my friend, and understood my situation. Uh, just became a very special person that I can go to and trust and tell my things, and share afternoons together. And little place in Regina, Saskatchewan, and the park, Victoria Park. You probably know what that place is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a beautiful sunny day. He used to work for the Royal Saskatchewan Museum. He was photographing for the museum in the park, and I'm thinking, wow, what an interesting man. He's taking pictures of mushroom. Why is he doing that? And I got very intrigued. And obviously, he had no issues of explaining what he was doing. Why was he doing? Got to visit the museum 100 times behind the scenes. And I ended up falling in love, a place that I hated it so much. I wanted to leave Regina. I wanted to leave Canada, go back to Brazil, go back to live with my uncles. I hated the language. It was too difficult. I hated the cold. Then that man got in my life, which ruined me. I wanted to leave. Then I started falling in love because of this man, my best friend. Regina was a completely different place. I started to see, like I said, museums, park, places that people from Canada said there's no hills in Saskatchewan. That's a lie. There are. You just haven't been there. So I got to see a lot of Saskatchewan thanks to my best friend.
You talk about when the light bulb finally went on and you realized that there was part of you that really wasn't following your own dreams and the dreams that you had had from when you were that small girl in Chile and pretending you were interviewing people. And that is how it kind of came about that you decided that you were going to actually pursue becoming a radio host and a podcast host. So, how did that all come about, Lizy?
One of the things that I always liked to do when my girls were little, and it took us, my husband and I, 10 years to have our girls. So it was very, very expected. The girls were so wanted. I wanted mostly so bad to be a mother. And when I remember going through 12 steps because of my previous situation, I always kind of blame myself. Maybe I can't have kids because I allow this to happen. Later on, I realized it wasn't my fault. I was a victim. But it took us 10 years. So I wanted to make sure that they got the best um, background, the best mother that I could be, the best situation I can that I can give it to them. Like I ate when I was pregnant. I ate organic, and I took cooking lessons for long story short, I wanted to read to them every night for as long as they allow me, because now they're there were two young, beautiful adult, semi-adult, 20 and 18 women that I knew that there would be the day that they would not allow me to read to them. So I used to read every night for as long as I can remember. And I was reading, I love Canadian author Robert Munch and
Oh,
many others. And I was reading to them The Little Train That Can. And I stopped reading for a little. Some of you probably know about the book.
oh, for
Um,
sure. I know it well. Yeah.
that's
I
right.
think
That's
I
right.
can. I
And
think I can, right?
that's right. And I remember saying, I stopped reading the book and I said to the girls, honey, you could do anything you want. Don't let anybody put you down. Don't let naysayers tell you that you can't. And I went on and on before even finishing the book. And then it kind of dawned on me, um, what was, look at me preaching, but what was my dream that I didn't fulfill? And I stopped reading the book, and I kind of, it made me sad. It made me really sad. And I put the book down, and the girls like, "Mommy, read finish the book." And I said, "I can't. It's by that time. I'm turning off the light. It's getting lit." And I went to my bathroom and I just cried. And I'm like, "What a hypocrite mom I am." You know, I had a dream. It brought me back, me with my little stick, and I never did anything about it. So how can I preach to my kids when I didn't fulfill my dreams? I have to do something about it. I have to try it. I don't know how. I have no idea how I'm going to start, but I'm just going to do it. Even if it fails, I can at least say to them, it's incredible how we sabotage ourselves, right? And for you that are listening right now, everyone, close your eye and think, what was I dreaming when I was 5, when I was 6? What was I playing? Was I playing with the truck, the fireman truck, and I want to be a firefighter? And here I am in the office, hating my job. It's just think about that, because there's probably somewhere in your back of your mind thinking, I wanted to be that nurse, or I wanted to be that teacher, and you're not doing that. My mom always says, never too late, never too late to fulfill your dreams. So yeah, I started doing my podcast on Sunday night where nobody can hear because I was too scared
Yeah.
of
But you
of
were really self-taught too. You talk about how you really learned a lot through reading books, listening to podcasts, YouTube videos, and
yes.
delving into all of the learning that you could find, and really then trial and error and just diving right in.
Yes, yes. It was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes. And if I were to listen to my very, very first boss, guys, which I have, I'm like, what was I thinking? What was I saying? That have makes no sense. But you know what? It's a learning curve, like all of us, even for you that is listening to us right now and thinking, I want to crochet, I want to do this. And you start doing, and you look at your 5 crochets that you did previously, you probably think that's horrible. I like what I'm doing now. And it's all a process. And so yeah, I dive right in. A lot of people, I even thought of going to college and taking a telecommunications course or a podcasting, which they have nowadays, by the way. My daughter, she's in university and college, and she's telling me, Mom, do you know that there is a podcasting course that you could do here at the college? And I'm like, so I even thought of doing that. But my focus was, I'm going to be doing this so I can show my girls that I tried it didn't work. So I'm sabotaging myself that I had no idea that this could be a successful business. I had no idea that this could be a successful podcast. I had no idea that I would have reach 48 countries in the world. I had no idea that I could teach others to do this. None of that crossed my mind.
But it just grew and grew, and you have a very successful radio show now, the Lizy T show, and it's on YouTube. It is on
Talk
internet
radio
radio.
and the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, and in so many countries. And I can just feel and hear the joy in your voice that this is such a good fit for you. And you have also won a lot of awards, Lizy. Can you tell us about a couple of the awards that are
Well,
really are near and dear to your heart?
yes, the interesting part was that I ended up being asked to promote shows, promote events, being part of concerts to interview artists. And I remember going to a network where they're awarding ladies for services and jobs and things that they do in the community. And uh, for my surprise, I was nominated in one of them. So when they call my name and the best award for podcasting goes to Lizy, I'm like, no, this is not happening. And so people got to know my style, which, by the way, everyone, there is no style. I have to give all the credit to my husband, because we were talking about how to name this. Now we have a registered business, is JNL, John and Liz Productions. That's what we call our business. But the theme was, I didn't have a theme. So my husband goes, well, what do you ask your people? I said, well, I'm telling who they ask them, what they are and what they do. And he just came up like a snap of a finger. Tell me who you are, what you do, contact info, anything new. And that became the theme of the show. And it just took like wildfire, just crazy. So then after that, people got to know me and they started nominating me for Best Podcast of Canada, Best Podcast in Ontario, Best Podcast in Mississauga, in Toronto, and so forth and so on. So uh, it's always very rewarding, very interesting. I'm always excited to hear, like, who am I to get this, and very grateful, to be honest, very grateful, like many other podcasts. I mean, if there is one, I love to nominate you right now. I know there's a couple of them going on, but I love to nominate you, Deb, because you're doing an incredible job. I feel so comfortable doing this.
Thank you, Lizy. Do you want to share with us maybe a couple of some of your more memorable guests? I know you've had so many, but do you want to just give us a couple of examples of some of the guests that you have interviewed and had these very intimate and candid conversations with?
I have been doing this now for a little over 7 years. So I would say 8. I registered my business about 5-6 years ago. And it's been, there've been so many people. And I love and I hate this question, because I've been asked it a lot of time. There's so many incredible guests. You were on my podcast. I loved you as well. You have a lot to share, but there's people that you always look up and you never even think, that to actually meet them, let alone interview them. And so I used to be obsessed about running. I always looked at people, how did you do that? How do they can run a marathon? I'm just like, I love to do that. And I'm kind of like my dad, put myself to it and work a little and just get my feet wet and realize, hey, this shoe is a lot bigger than my foot. I don't think I can handle, but I'm going to do it anyway. So always grab something more than I can handle. And so I ended up doing marathons and running. And one of my biggest people that I admire is John Staton. He is the owner and CEO of the Running Clinic. And I've read a lot of his books. His trainings are amazing. He has a franchise all over Canada now, in the United States. And I got to meet him, and bold as I am, do you think I can interview? And of course, he said, absolutely. And I had him on my show, and I was like, I can tell you, Debbie, I was so nervous. I was shaking. But I prepare, but you can never prepare enough. But it was incredible to have Mr. John Statton, the creator, owner, CEO of the running room of Canada from BC. It was 3 hours different as well, but it was so worth it. And I loved, and I actually, I'm listened many times, and I thought it did okay. The other person that I had on my show is, even being in South America, I always been fascinated, which I never get to learn about, ice skating. And those people flying in the air, doing the triples and the quadruples and all that. And I always had a little crush on Elvis Dyko. Because he's so cute and handsome, and my age at the time, and I thought he was the greatest thing. And look at him, he's flying in the air and winning medals for Canada, even in South America. I mean, I used to watch him in Brazil. So when I came to Canada, I continue following him and many other skater. And I was on an event where he was there, and I got to talk to him and meet him and take pictures. And again, I'm being bold. Do you think you can be on my podcast? And he said, absolutely. And I'm like, no, really?
Oh, wow. So exciting. John
So I had him
Statton
on
is
my show as
certainly,
well.
yeah.
And his wife happened to be Mexican.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes,
Know that.
yes, they run a nonprofit organization. They pick up dogs from. That's another thing people don't know about him, is he picks up dogs from Mexico and brings them to Canada for people, him and his wife, to adopt. So that I love that. I love that about Elvis. So those are the two people that I mean, I can go on and on. There's so many of them, but those are the two people, because I never even thought of dreaming of meeting them. Not only I got to meet them, take pictures with them, but also interview them and talk about it, what the influence they had on my life, especially being able to run a marathon. And again, watching Elvis from TV, right from South America, actually shaking his head and having him on my show.
Wow. And I didn't know that you were a marathon runner. That is congratulations on that. But interviewing John Statton, such an icon, and I have read his books too, and I certainly have not run a marathon, but he is
Well,
so
I have to confess, I did have an injury just about a year ago, and I tore my meniscus because I ended up doing Muay Thai too and went hiking. But I am out of commission, so I'm building it up again. If I can do 5K now, I'm cheering for myself. But no, I haven't been running for a couple of years now, just because of my injury. But I'm glad I did it. It's on my bucket list cross, and I have the medals to prove it. I was actually just cleaning the other day, and I found all my medals, and I was crying. I'm like, I was able to do that, and I can't anymore.
no doubt. And Elvis Stoiko certainly is a Canadian icon with his
Yes.
amazing figure skating
Yes.
history and abilities, and
Yeah.
that. Oh yeah, such memorable guests you've had. You're also an author, and we've talked about your book, and I loved your book. And it's really a memoir of yours, and the title of your book is Greener Pastures. But you do share a lot of very personal accounts, and you even stated that some of the things you shared in your book that you had never really shared with other people except your husband. So were you a little afraid to be so vulnerable? You did state earlier that it took you a few years for it to be released. What did that really feel like, Lizy?
It was scary. It's like, when you have, I don't know if you have dream, but some people do. You dream that you're naked in front of everybody. I also do Toastmasters. And one of the things that Toastmaster teaches, imagine everybody is naked. So you're just kind of unveiling them, and it will make you feel comfortable speaking in front of the public. So that's what it felt like. I felt naked. Now everybody knows my truth. And even though I've gone through therapy, I've gone through 12 step, you still feel in the back of your mind, this is your fault. You got in that situation because you made yourself available. And no, no, that is not the case. So it felt very now everybody will know that I'm of this that nobody else knew. Not even my mom had to read my book to realize what had happened to me. So other than my husband, yeah, and my girls don't know the details. They've had read the book, but as soon as they go to that part, they don't read it because they don't feel comfortable themselves, and I respect that. But it was to this day, to this day, although I am an author, I have I do promote my book when I'm sharing, or if I have a copy, a physical copy. I have to feel really comfortable with that person to say, would you like a copy of my book? Because I, in the back of my mind, are they going to judge me? Are they going to feel different about me? My status of this famous podcaster is going to go down because they're going to read that part of me. So yeah, to this day, unfortunately, I don't know if it will ever go away. Maybe it will, but it feels like I'm naked in front of everyone. So it's challenging, but it's, I guess, my cross to carry and my challenge to overcome.
From someone who has read your book and really enjoyed it, Lizy, I'm really proud of you for writing it,
Thank
and I
you.
think you did a wonderful thing by sharing your story with people through your book. So do you feel that this time of your life, now that you're over 50, is some of the most exciting yet?
I would say so. I would say so. This is definitely a part of my life that I didn't realize I was ever going to reach here. There was times in my life that moving from Chile and moving to Brazil, there's this part in Chile where we were under the regime of President Pinochet, which was a dictatorship. My father missed the curfew. We were together, and if you miss the curfew and you're in a place that you're not supposed to be there, the military would just shoot you. And they were on they had all the right to do so. That was the time that we were living in. And for the grace of God, my dad didn't get shot, but I remember I remember seeing the police, the military person pointing the gun, and he put me in front. I remember that like it was yesterday. He put me in front, and I thought, wow, my dad wants me to get killed and not him. But it was just to show I have a child with me. I missed the curfew. I'm really sorry. And not only that, if they were to shoot them, I would shoot him and not me. And people don't even times of war. Those are times of war. And other times, the other time that I felt for my life was when I was on that situation, on that relationship, because
Mhm.
I didn't know what he was capable of, right? And by the way, that person ended up going to jail, because he repeated the same thing with somebody else. But yeah, so I didn't think I was going to be at 50, to be honest. And many other things that I've gone through, car accidents and things like that. But I guess God wants me here for some reason. And I appreciate that. I appreciate every day. And that's one of the things that I always tell people. I appreciate it and be thankful for everything that you go through in your life. There's a reason. There's a reason for it, and enjoy it, and be grateful, even for the trials. Be grateful. And I know it's hard, but somebody who has gone through trials, I can tell you, just like Debbie said, there is a light on the other tunnel.
We can certainly hear that gratitude from you, Lizy, for the life you now live, and looking forward for the years to come. But I've really enjoyed our conversation, Lizy, but this does bring me to my final question that I do ask each and every one of my guests. And that question is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your 25-year-old self today?
You did ask me that. You sent me a paper on that. You reiterated before we started recording. And to be honest, I am thinking and thinking, what would I say to my 25-year-old? That's a very interesting question, Debbie. Um, to be honest, I would, a lot of people live by regrets. And that's not a way of living. That is definitely not. We go through, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we go through our steps in life for a reason. There is a reason that you're going through your trials. There's a reason that you have to learn that difficult task, though, that difficult challenge. There is a reason, and we have to try to learn from it. So there's a part of me that I always say, if I was younger and I know now, and I know then what I know now, I probably wouldn't make those mistakes. But again, there was a reason that I had to go through those mistakes. I have two young girls right now. And if I wouldn't have gone through what I went through, I cannot leave that legacy and teach them, because I experienced it. So yeah, to be honest, I think I would tell myself, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. It's hard, but keep going. I would tell myself, keep going. You have no idea. By the time you're 50, you're gonna look back and you're just gonna say it was difficult, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I like that. It was difficult, but it was worth it. And we can always learn something from our adversities. If we go into it with that attitude that terrible things do happen to all of us at some time in our life. And if we can take away some life lessons from that and move on, it usually can do us well. So well put, Lizy. I do hope that everyone checks out the Lizy T Show and your website. And I've really enjoyed having you with me today. So thank you so much for sharing this conversation with me today. You
Debbie, it was definitely a pleasure, an honor. You did. I think I must say 5 times, and I'm going to say it again. You did an incredible job. You are definitely in the right path to being one of the greatest podcasters in Western Canada, and maybe, and I would sure all over. But yeah, keep doing, everyone. Sign up to, if you have a story, and everybody does, not because I am the Lizy show in Canada, but everybody has a story. Get in touch with this incredible lady, because she will make you feel like a million, which she is making you feel like a million right now. So yeah, tune up and follow her and listen and sign up, because you'll not regret it.
Oh, Lizy, you are just so sweet, but you have shown by your shining example that if we never give up and keep moving forward, no matter the challenges that come our way, an incredible life may be just around the corner. So I love your energy, and I love the way you are uplifting others with your positivity and inspiration on the Lizy T Show and in every conversation, like the conversation we're having today. So continue following your dreams and being the fearless and fabulous Lizy T. So thank you again so much.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you for being part of Older and Bolder with Debbie McCulloch. Tune in for all the episodes